There is a jellyfish that when it gets old, sick, or badly injured, does not simply die the way almost every other animal on Earth eventually does. Instead, its entire body starts breaking down on purpose, and out of that breakdown, a brand new, younger version of itself begins to grow. Not a copy, not offspring. The exact same animal, starting its life completely over again. This is Turritopsis dohrnii, often called the immortal jellyfish, and it is one of the only animals known to science that can reverse its own aging process and regrow its entire body from scratch. To understand how strange this actually is, you first need to understand what a normal jellyfish life cycle usually looks like. Most jellyfish start life as a tiny, drifting larva. That larva eventually settles down and attaches itself to a rock or a shell, growing into a small, plant-like structure called a polyp. Over time, that polyp buds off small jellyfish, which grow into the swimming, bell-shaped adult form most people recognize as a jellyfish. This adult form is called a medusa. In a normal jellyfish, once it reaches this adult medusa stage, there's no going back. It grows, it reproduces, and eventually it dies, just like almost every other animal. The immortal jellyfish breaks this entire pattern. When an adult medusa of this species becomes injured, sick, or simply stressed by its environment, instead of dying, its body begins an extraordinary process. The fully grown, free-swimming jellyfish starts to shrink and collapse in on itself, its tentacles and body slowly folding inward. Eventually, it settles onto a surface and transforms back into that early polyp stage, the exact same stage it started life as long before it ever became a swimming adult. From that reformed polyp, the jellyfish essentially starts its entire life cycle over again, budding off new young jellyfish that are genetically identical to the original, fully grown adult. In a very real sense, the same individual animal has gone from being a fully developed adult all the way back to its childhood form, and then can grow all the way back up into an adult again, repeating this cycle, in theory, an unlimited number of times. So how does an entire fully formed body reverse itself like this? The answer lies in a process called transdifferentiation, and it's genuinely one of the strangest tricks found anywhere in biology. In most animals, once a cell becomes a specific type, like a muscle cell or a nerve cell, it generally stays that type for the rest of its life. The immortal jellyfish's cells don't follow this rule. During this reversal process, existing specialized cells actually convert directly into completely different types of cells, without needing to go through the usual steps most cells would require to change their role. A cell that was once part of a fully developed tentacle or muscle can transform directly into a completely different kind of cell needed to build the earlier, simpler polyp stage. This is dramatically different from how most regeneration works in other animals. A starfish, for example, can regrow a lost arm, but it's still growing new tissue forward from an existing undamaged body, not reversing its entire body backward into an earlier stage of life. The immortal jellyfish is doing something much closer to true biological rewinding, taking mature, specialized cells and converting them back into a more basic, flexible form, then using those cells to rebuild the earlier version of itself from the ground up. Researchers first began studying this ability after noticing that jellyfish placed under various kinds of stress in laboratory conditions, things like physical injury, starvation, or sudden changes in water temperature, would sometimes respond by triggering this reversal process instead of simply dying the way most jellyfish would under the same conditions. This suggested the reversal isn't just a rare accident. It appears to be a genuine survival strategy, a biological escape hatch this species can rely on when conditions become too difficult to survive as a fully grown adult. There's another strange side effect of this ability that has quietly turned this tiny jellyfish into a global traveler. Because Turritopsis dohrnii can theoretically avoid death from old age altogether, and can revert back to its earliest, hardiest life stage whenever conditions turn difficult, Individual colonies of this species may be able to survive rough journeys that would kill most other jellyfish outright. Scientists believe this species originally came from the Mediterranean Sea, but it has since been found in oceans all over the world, likely carried across long distances attached to the hulls of ships or hidden inside ballast water taken on and released far from its original home. Its unusual resilience, the same trait that lets it dodge death from aging, may be exactly what has allowed it to survive these long, difficult journeys and quietly establish itself in waters far from where it originally started. It's important to be clear about what immortal actually means in this case, because it doesn't mean this jellyfish cannot die at all. It can absolutely still be eaten by a predator, killed by disease, or destroyed by physical damage severe enough to prevent the reversal process from happening. What makes it biologically immortal is simply that it does not appear to have any built-in aging process that inevitably kills it over time, the way essentially every other animal on the planet eventually experiences. Left alone, without being eaten, injured beyond recovery, or killed by disease, this jellyfish theoretically has no natural expiration point built into its own biology at all. This raises an interesting question that researchers are still actively studying. If scientists can fully understand the exact biological process this jellyfish uses to convert mature cells back into a more basic, flexible state, that knowledge could potentially offer insight into aging and cell regeneration far beyond jellyfish themselves. While no one is suggesting humans could ever use this exact process, studying how this animal manages to reverse cellular aging at all is considered valuable for broader research into how aging works across many different species, including our own. So the next time you think about the ocean's strangest creatures, remember there's a jellyfish smaller than your fingernail, quietly capable of something no other known animal can fully replicate. Growing old and then, instead of dying, simply becoming young again, over and over, using a trick built directly into its own cells.